Your energy sets me free.
Welcome everyone. Here you have Nathen McEown, the partner in charge of Whitley Penn's Houston office, and this is our first installment of Whitley Penn's Energy Executive Profile Series. It's going to be a little bit different than our other podcasts. Our other ones have been more tailored to the pure accounting issues, but here we have one of our favorite clients and someone I consider a close personal friend, Brandon White. So Brandon White, please introduce yourself and let them know what you do.
Yeah, Brandon White, I feel very special being the first person in the podcast, which means it's only going to get better from here, most likely. I'm currently the head of business development and strategy for Franklin Mountain Energy, which is a privately backed New Mexico, Delaware operator. Previously, I was one of the founders of a privately backed company called OneEnergy Partners, which is where the Whitley, Penn, and Nathen relationship began.
And you're a proud Texas Longhorn, but even prouder Uvalde alumni. A lot of people come from certain towns, special towns, but you have a distinct pride for Uvalde. What's up with that?
Besides it being awesome, I think I'm probably one of 3 Uvalde people that have ever made it east of San Antonio that are currently living in Houston. So there's a lot of pride where I'm from. Have a lot of pride in my Longhorns as well, but being from Uvalde is a big thing for me.
So I spend one day in Uvalde. Where do I have to go?
We're only going to be able to eat Mexican food, but I would suggest you either get in a tube and go to the Frio River, which a lot of people do, or you talk one of your good friends, maybe a ex-client named Brandon White, into doing some bird hunting.
We'll talk about some exotics later there too, but get back to, okay, Brandon, take us to the beginning. What's your childhood story? What ultimately brought you to UT?
Yeah, so I'm a 5th generation Uvalde, which is an hour west of San Antonio for all the people that probably think I'm still saying the valley. Grew up, I have a twin brother, 7 months older. I'm the youngest of one of 4 children. My dad was a lawyer. He went to UT. My twin brother went to UT. My older brother went to UT. My aunt and uncle went to UT. I was top 5% in my high school class, which allowed me the opportunity to go to UT. So it was the only school I applied to. I like to describe my only hobby as Longhorn football. So it really was a kind of an easy option. Growing up in a small town, you didn't necessarily know to apply to a lot of places, but it was where I always went and ended up working out for me.
So growing up in Uvalde, I just imagine a lot of hunting, fishing, maybe cow tipping.
No cow tipping, less fishing than hunting, but yeah, it was being outdoors and doing a lot of that stuff. Uvalde's kind of like brush country meets hill country, so it was very important part of my childhood.
So then you go to UT and you get into energy. I mean, how does that? Do you have energy in your family? Is that something you knew you wanted to do? Did you stumble into it?
My family is a low energy No, I'm just joking. No energy in my family. My dad's a lawyer. My twin brother's a lawyer. My older brother's a doctor. I think the energy ended up being that I went to UT, became a finance major when I realized that I didn't want to go to any more school after undergrad. And being in UT, you kind of start doing recruiting, and everybody started talking about doing investment banking. And a lot of the investment banks that recruit at UT are Houston-based investment banks, which are recruiting for their energy practice. So I kind of ended up here in energy, but I would say that it's definitely worked out and has really been a good move for me.
Okay, so you go post-college, you go to BMO, you're doing an investment banking thing. I'm sure working a ton of hours. And how was that first investment banking job? Was it purely focused on energy, kind of right out the gate?
Yeah, I would say so. I joined BMO in 2006. Coming out of undergrad, people tell you like the best thing you can do is investment banking, but you also hear like the Wall Street stories of working 100 hours a week or 120 hours a week, and how cutthroat it is. So I would say my first year, I was focused on not getting being the analyst that got let go. Outperforming my peers, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, you work really closely with a lot of people that you spend a lot of time with, especially, being out of college. Who you work with is usually who you spend the weekends with. So I developed a lot of really good friends. But It was purely energy-focused investment bank. Most of what we did was in the upstream space, which was good because it's kind of where I've continued all of my career.
And so, I've heard the BMO reference, and I know there's a lot of people that came out of that kind of generation of investment banking there. So it's a little bit like the BMO fraternity. I know Bobby Connor of Prime Rock. What other guys did you get to know that have now kind of moved on to private equity, energy, or in the space?
Yeah, it's it's kind of a core group. I mean, I would say from '05 to probably 2012. Everybody was an analyst. Really stays in touch and are really good friends. So you mentioned Bobby, who is a really good friend. He was the vintage right before me, so we got to spend a lot of hours together. Scott McGregor over at Quantum is one of my good buddies, and we always joke because our wives are friends. But the first 3 years of post college, we probably spent more time with each other than we have with anybody else during a three year stint. Taylor Galloway is a good dude over at Geophysical Pursuit, and then you have some of the younger guys like Ryan Collins over at Kane.
Good. So you're at BMO. You were there, I think, about 6 years, and then was it Jeffries after that? Is it?
Yeah. So I had done about 6-7 years of investment banking. Had gone A to A. Was about to be a VP, and then kind of did the whole kind of mid-life crisis of like, what do I really want to do when I grow up? I was supposed to basically work from analyst associate and then travel the world for 12 months after my first associate year. But then I met a female who eventually became my wife, who kind of threw a wrench in that plan. So
That can happen.
yeah, ended up working out for the best, obviously. But yeah, so I was 6-7 years, kind of was like, hey, am I going to be a banker for the rest of my life, or am I going to do something different? An opportunity kind of came around through a friend that allowed me to switch over to the buy side. So I joined Jefferies Capital Partners, which is the merchant bank of Jefferies, which is a global investment bank. And then at the time, a company called Leucadia had basically merged with Jefferies, giving them a balance sheet. So I joined a group of 2 people. That was my boss and myself were kind of tasked with deploying upwards of $500 to $1 billion into energy back in 2013, I believe.
Okay, and so you're humming along, and then tell me about, how does OEP, OneEnergy Partners, how does that organically evolve? How do you get pulled in? At what point are you pulled in? I mean, what's the genesis of that?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't entirely planned. It wasn't like, hey, one day I'm going to start a company called OneEnergy Partners with 2 guys. But I would say that the previous place I was at, Jefferies Leucadia, we had funded about 7 portfolio companies, and one of the portfolio companies had what ended up being one of the guys I partnered at OneEnergy with, a guy David Ramsden Wood, who was doing non-op in the Bakken, and I kept encouraging him. He was a very talented guy, both technically and operationally, and encouraged him to do something besides non-op because he's a little older than me. He was wasting away what I call his prime years. So next thing you know, oil hits $40, and he had a good friend named Leo Slutsky who was at TPG, and we kind of always had wanted to do something entrepreneurial. No time better than low oil prices to try to put one up on the scoreboard. But we partnered with Carnelian, who put us in business with kind of a diversified platform as far as no regional focus, no deal focus, but kind of like go out there and hustle, evaluate deal by deal, and find an opportunity. And that's kind of how it was formed.
I kind of feel like there was a distress play in the beginning.
There was a distress play, but the opportunity set was very distressed, so we quickly moved on to bucket number 2 and bucket number 3.
I feel like that's when what the hype word is, pivot.
Yeah, we definitely pivoted, but the like I said, we kind of the opportunity to evaluate a lot of different things allowed us to kind of like throw out things that weren't working and find things that were, and so it really allowed us to kind of see good deals, see bad deals, which really allowed us to like understand what was a good deal and what would be successful in the market conditions that we were operating under. And so we ended up in the Delaware Basin, but in a part that hadn't seen kind of the Permian craze, if you will, in New Mexico. And, between, I guess, 2016 to 2018, kind of put together 12,000 acres and ended up monetizing that.
And this is a technical question here. How did you come up with the name OneEnergy Partners?
It's a very good question. So I would like to give only one person credit for OneEnergy Partners, and that's Leo. He happens to be a Golden State Warrior fan, and there's some documentary on the team about being one and the power of one team. So that's how it got approved. And the Carnelian guys didn't really like David Ramsden Wood's consulting company's name. I won't tell you what that is, but that's how we ended up with OneEnergy Partners.
So I always thought it was OneEnergy Partners because then when you do round 2, it's going to be 2 energy partners. But that's not really what you guys thought behind of it. And then you could be 3 energy partners, 4 energy. The more you get back, it just kind of goes on. But that's not it.
Yeah, I would say there was definitely some disagreements about what 2 energy partners or OneEnergy Partners 2 would be called. But
so for all you teams looking to get backed, go steal 2 energy partners now before they kind of go back on that. Okay, so you put the position together quickly. You sell it very quickly. What was it, within 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the position was kind of put together over kind of 12 to 18 months. And once we put together, we started a marketing process that ended up transacting to 3 different packages over probably like a 9-month period. So, kind of cradle to grave we formed in March of 2016 and sold our last asset in October of 2018.
And so, I mean, you always, obviously, you're excited what you're doing. You think it's going to work. But at what point you're like, man, this is like really coming together?
I would say that we first knew that we kind of had captured an opportunity when we first said, hey, we really want to target New Mexico. We knew it was going to be a win. The question of how big of a win was it going to be? Could we aggregate enough to make it really meaningful? When we first started in New Mexico, we were kind of saying, hey, if we got 4,000 acres, we'd be happy. We ended up doing 3 times that. So I would say, the opportunity was always known. The question was like, how could we scale it?
One of the really interesting things about your team, we've dealt with a lot of private equity groups or back teams in audit and tax world and the consulting, but you all were 3 people, and then you became 4, but really you stuck to kind of a 4 to 5 roster in the time employee count. And I mean, how did you build such a balance sheet and such a position with 4 to 5 employees?
Well, it wasn't easy. We didn't necessarily start out to be 3 guys in 3 cities, and we definitely didn't start out to be 4 guys in 4 cities. But I would say that we leveraged a lot of technology, different things like virtual office, some customer sales platforms and different things like that. And then we used a lot of consultants, both on the technical side and drilling side, to drill the 3 wells that we did in New Mexico, but also kind of in the back office accounting side. Like, we partnered with this group called Whitley, Penn, hence plug. But that really helped us kind of limit how many people we wanted to bring on, because again, like, once we realized we had captured an opportunity, we knew that once we had kind of run that out, that we would probably be in monetization mode. And being that we were spread out a bunch of different cities, it didn't really make sense to get physical office space and add 10 different people for kind of a 6-month venture. It wasn't easy. I think we had a lot of high horsepower people, but it also was a lot of relationships that we had, including you guys, which really helped us, kind of do what a large company would do with a relatively small staff.
So just to reiterate, if you're going to be private equity, you want to stay lean. Whitley, Penn, back office is the key.
Yeah, or all the other people. I won't. No.
I'm kidding. No. I appreciate it. It was interesting to see you guys scaled up quickly, and obviously we could contract and expand as needed, and it was a lot of fun to see the cradle to grave there, and actually the first team on our outsourcing side. So it was fun. But from that experience, OneEnergy Partners, it's really all three of you. Well, I guess David had done it a little bit before, but to really break out, do your own thing. What lessons did you learn from that experience?
I would say that it sounds really fun to, hey, let's go raise a bunch of money and go put it to work and make a bunch of money. But I would say that it's a lot harder than it definitely sounds. I mean, there's the ups and downs of being in a very cyclical industry, where you only win if you make your investors money. You can put a lot of stress on you. Luckily, we had a very good partners in Carnelian, who added a lot of value to us, and also kind of like, were supportive, even though, at certain times commodity prices or the M&A market weren't overly supportive to what we were trying to accomplish. But it's definitely different. I came from the finance side where, every year you got, some sort of base plus bonus, and to go out there and say there's not really a bonus and your base is drastically lower, but kind of you eat what you kill, if you will, and that to me was exciting. And I think a lot of us, were similar ages of the three that founded it, so I think we were all kind of ready to take on a little more risk in our lives. We're very fortunate that it worked out, though.
Yeah, I think about that. I remember meeting you guys when you were a team with the dream, so to speak, and
one team, one dream.
That's right. And okay, you've had the exit. You guys have had success. You all took some chips off the table, and it was very successful, and it was exciting. But now, do you have the same brand? Does Brandon have the same hunger that Brandon had with OneEnergy? Because that was a special, unique thing. You had three people that were passionate and were going above and beyond. And does some of that, once you have your first exit, does any of that kind of get pulled away?
I mean, I think for every person, it'll slightly be different. I would say that my business partner, Mr. David Ramsden-Wood, might play a little more golf than he did before. But no, I think as long as you enjoy what you do and enjoy who you do it with, there's always going to be a level of hunger there. I'd be lying to you if I said the stress on me to go out there and find every deal and stuff like that was as strong as when we first started OneEnergy Partners. But I think from at least David and my perspective, we're definitely we enjoy what we do, so there's always a hunger to go out there and succeed and do what we think we are meant to do.
So we mentioned David, and to our listeners that don't know David, please go follow him on LinkedIn. David Ramsden-Wood, hot takes of the day. It's very insightful and a lot of fun to read through. But so tell me, so those who don't know, he posts these hot takes of the day about the industry, very candid, very opinionated. He has his blog, he has his books. How did you, and you saw that really evolve at OneEnergy, and what are your thoughts on David and his hot takes?
So I've read his to be published book. It's very, very good. I would say that there's a lot of stuff in there that I'd recommend anybody purchasing it once it ever gets published, if it does get published. And I'm not saying that because I have royalties in the book. I actually don't. But no, it's really good. I mean, I think David does a good job of balancing, just like certain life hot takes and then also industry hot takes. He's a very intelligent guy. He's a little different because he's Canadian. He's also American. He's a very good athlete. He's a little older than us, but he luckily has a lot of really good experience, and so I think most of the things he says are factual. There are some things that I have to tell him that he's wrong on, but I think there's enough people on LinkedIn also telling him he's wrong, so I try to limit that.
No, I think he does a great job, and one of his current hot buttons obviously is talking about management compensation in public companies, and is that really aligned with performance, and when you talk about private equity, it's always directly aligned, and you don't get paid unless something happens. And so now he brings up great points, and it's very insightful and always entertaining. So you guys, you end OEP, you sell the assets. How does the next step, Franklin Mountain? You and David are both now at Franklin Mountain. How did that all come about, and what's that company about, and what's the vision going forward for Franklin Mountain? Yeah,
I would say similar to what we did at OneEnergy Partners. Every we're obviously in a cyclical industry, so certain things will work in different cycles, and you need to be able to be flexible and nimble to execute on those. I would say that, at the later stages of OneEnergy Partners, we definitely started to see that, the idea of put together acreage and sell it to some large guy that pays you a bunch of money to go drill it up was ending. And so what we really wanted to do was the last asset that we had sold, we sold to Franklin Mountain with the idea of partnering with them to buy this Fed cell in New Mexico, which kind of extended a lot of the OneEnergy Partners stuff that we had kept to 2-mile laterals, blocked it up, and some of the best rock in what we would argue is America. And so the goal was to kind of form a pure operating company that or a sustainable energy company that could go drill wells, pad develop, and do a lot of things that we think you need to do in today's market to be successful. And so that was always the goal. It was to try to find the capital that would kind of be very energy friendly, long-term capital. And so we have, with Franklin Mountain, we kind of have a group of investors that were the management team and founders of Western Refining, which was obviously a refiner. So they've been through the cycles. They have a lot of energy experience, and so we partnered with them to go develop the asset that we had, part of the asset we had put together at OneEnergy Partners.
And obviously private equity is kind of a flip scenario. So how is it different being with Franklin Mountain, who probably has a more long-term view, and what are the advantages of that?
Yeah, I would say, again, private equity is a flip because they were able to flip. I would say that private equity nowadays is probably gearing towards longer-term investments. So outside of not having to exit ever if they don't want to, there's a lot of the similarities, like, that we need to make money just like private equity, but there definitely is potentially a more drill-friendly, patient money, being that you're only dealing with a handful of guys versus, a fund that needs to return capital to their investors. But I would say it's still similar in the sense that we're going to make what we think are good risk-adjusted decisions. But yeah, I would say we're properly capitalized to go kind of execute on the asset we have, which is where you want to be in this market. So.
Good. And so now moving towards more the personal, let's call it the Brene Brown vulnerability section. Becoming a dad, Brandon. You got one, and you got another one coming. What's that like? How has that changed your life and your dynamic of work hard until you get it done?
Yeah, I'd say I'm closer to growing up. Not have a 14-month-old, but no, I have a 14-month-old daughter who's the most amazing thing ever, and then another baby due in October, so we didn't really waste any time, but I kind of view that I'm not getting any younger either. So we'll be done at 2, but it definitely added some different perspective. Getting married obviously says, hey, there's someone I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, but then there's also, when you bring a human into this world, it's like, hey, there's someone that's going to be there for the rest of my life, but I also have to take fully care of and nurture and all that stuff. So it's been amazing. It was at the last stages of OneEnergy Partners, so it kind of was a crazy time in my life, both stress but happiness. But yeah, so I think in October I'll have number 2, which should be a lot of fun. So.
It's kind of hard to have a bad day when you come home and you got your own fan club at home, right? Bellamy runs up, Daddy.
Yeah, I would say that there's 3 people in my house, and 2 of them are consistent when I come home, happy to see me. It's my daughter and my dog. So, but yeah, no, it's a smiling face is always good to see. But it's working out of your house for a lot of time at OneEnergy Partners with a pregnant wife and then a newborn was loads of fun. So,
so you do what any good oil man does. You have an exit and you go get a ranch and you start putting some exotics on it. Tell us a little bit about that. And of course, it's in Uvalde.
Of course, it has to be. I would say the plan wasn't to go buy a ranch. It happened to be a unicorn of a ranch that became available. So my twin brother and myself purchased it. He tends to have an exotic animal habit, and I'm somewhat supportive of that habit. So we've been buying a lot of very interesting animals from Africa and Asia that now exist over there to combine with the animals that already exist down in South Texas.
Give us a total count of animals, exotic.
There's probably 30 different species and probably 150 individual animals.
What's the most unique or the one that you're like, wow, I didn't know we could get that?
A bongo, and no one's gonna know what that is, so they'll have to Google it. But bongo, eland, there's a lot of different variations of wildebeest, but
these are all for viewing pleasure, right?
hopefully making money
Okay.
pleasure. But yeah, it's more of my brother thinks of it like a cattle operation. It's just you're able to sell the animal for more than you can sell a cow. So we shall see.
Well, I look forward to seeing the ranch and coming down there. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the podcast. They have a little 20-question speed round, if you will. If you weren't in energy, what would you be doing? What's your dream job, Brandon?
That's a good question. I thought growing up I wanted to be a lawyer, but I ended up in investment banking because I didn't want to be a lawyer, so I have to exclude that one. I don't know. I think I'm doing my dream job currently. I haven't really had anything else that I've wanted to do besides being a professional athlete, but that was off the table very early.
Okay, so I know you're a research junkie. You always know what's going on. You always know who's going where, what's getting flipped, and everything. So what are you reading every day, daily, to get your information? I mean, as someone who wants to know what's going on in the industry, where do I go every day?
I would say there's not one source necessarily. A lot of it depends on what you're doing each day or what your job is or your regional focus, right? If you're a Permian, like you obviously want to read about the Permian, and if you're in East Texas, you want to read about the East Texas. But RBC has a website, rbcrichardsonbar.com, and that's not a plug. It's actually a website that I use. It links all of the public E&P press releases, which is pretty nice. So you kind of, if you're willing to click through all of them, you can kind of stay up to speed on kind of anything that's happening in the public realm. And then I would say that, like TPH has good morning notes, RSCG has a bunch of stuff. So either, having been a banker or have access to a lot of that stuff, like as long as you click it and read it, you should stay relatively well informed.
Okay, what's the last book you read?
Probably.
Or listened to?
Listen to is Ray Dalio Principles, and then last book I read was Black Swan by Nicholas Taleb.
Okay, name an event that had a big impact on you and helped mold who you are, whether it was youth or during your career. Just one thing that sticks out.
It's a very good question. I would say in high school, after graduation, I was in a very bad car accident with my brother, where he probably shouldn't have been alive. So kind of, being a very, 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 very dumb high school kid, it kind of, right before college, possibly put a little more real world into my mind, which probably helped steer me a little less trouble than I ended up getting into. But yeah, I would say that's probably one of the more impactful things that kind of happened to me.
Okay, you a beach or a mountains guy?
Well, I didn't ski until I was 26, so I would have to say I'm a beach guy.
And I know you and your wife really enjoy traveling, so what's the best vacation you've ever been on?
I would say there's two of them because thankfully for my Jeffries Leucadia days, it was a little quieter. So in one year, me and my wife went to Thailand for 2 weeks and South Africa for 3 weeks. So both of those are very different, but both of them are very, very unique places in the world that have a lot to offer. So.
Okay, what TV shows are you binging these days?
I'm not going to tell you what I'm actually watching because I would be very embarrassed. I'm kind of watching a little Love Island nowadays.
Oh, wow, okay. I was going to say Real Housewives, but
I tend to like Bachelor and Bachelorette, unfortunately. And then I'm watching some Line of Duty on Hulu.
So when you're not researching energy, you tend to go to reality love shows. I like it.
Or reality. I watch Survivor. I watch Big Brother. I watch all of that stuff. But usually I have a laptop on my lap when I'm watching them, so technically I'm not actually watching them. They're background noise.
I feel like Naked Afraid's in there somewhere. I don't know.
None of that.
Okay, if you could have dinner with anyone who is dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive? That's a good question. Yeah, I don't have a good answer to that one.
Okay. This is probably the most thought-provoking, and I thought it'd impact you the most. As a loyal Texas Tech fan, and you being a tea sipper, how does it feel that Texas Tech in a much better sports year than UT?
Being that football is the only sport that matters, I don't agree with that assessment. But there's no doubt that between Tech baseball and basketball, you guys have been knocking the cover off the ball, if you will. But I think my Horns are very excited for this year's football season. And next year, when we have your basketball coach, we'll be even better. We just baseball front for all you Longhorns out there. We just brought on Tulowitzki from the Rockies as our hitting coach, so things are looking up.
Okay, what music are you listening to in your car?
My wife's Spotify, which is all over the place, and sometimes it will involve baby bum music that my 14-month-old will listen to. So.
I tell you what, I have a 6 and 4-year-old girl, and it's pretty much Old Town Road all day, every day, and it's cute to see him do it. But man, that song that will wear on you a little bit. Okay, who in the industry has made the greatest impression on you?
Besides the partner in charge of the Houston office of Whitley Penn, excluding him, of course. No, I would say that one of the people or the person probably that made the most or the largest impression on me so far, or was impactful to my career, was the group head at BMO at the time when I joined BMO back in 2006 was a guy named Todd Benton, and he joined right when I did, so I kind of say we joined together, which always made me feel really good about it. But I would say that he was one of the reasons I was very successful at BMO and started off my career right, was because he was that very honest and open guy. If you weren't doing a good job, he'd let you know it. And if you were doing a good job, he'd let you know it. He'd let you know you weren't doing a good job more often than he would let you know you were doing a good job. But, he was just a very honest and open guy. So, like, being in an investment bank, you hear horror stories, but the fact that he was the head of the group, kind of the guy steering the ship, really kept, kind of the work-life balance a little more managed than most investment banks, which allowed me to kind of stay there for 6 or 7 years, which is a pretty long time for an analyst to associate to VP type candidate. So.
Okay. What about what's your most useless talent?
I don't know if I have talents. Like I said, my only hobby is Longhorn football, so talent.
Researching Longhorn sports sounds useless to me, but I'm a tech guy.
Talent. I will say that there's most people that know me think I'm very talented in Microsoft Excel. It sounds very nerdy, but I'll put my skills up.
That's not useless. That's a valid talent.
That's true.
It can take you a long place. I used to know how to unicycle. That's useless.
No, I can't juggle. I can't really do anything. I can't sing. I can't do any of those things.
Okay, name, if you had a boat, what would you name it?
That's a very good question. I don't have a boat. I am not expecting to get a boat. I always liked the movie Captain Ron. But yeah, I don't know. It'd probably be my next child and my first child are both start with B's, so it might be Water B&B or something like that.
Okay, I know your wife is great at finding the new hot restaurants. What's the new spot in Houston I need to go to?
Yeah, she's less good at finding the hot spots with being pregnant and a 14-month-old, but I would say one of the hot spots is Eunice, but you go there every day, and we just had some delicious cocktails there. So, yeah, I don't know. She's a Theodore Rex, a lot of different places. Houston's really popping up on the food scene. So we're hoping after baby number 2, we'll get back.
Get to venture back out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any podcasts that you're into that you listen to religiously?
Yeah, any podcast that doesn't involve David Ramsden-Wood, I'm pretty big fan of. So.
Whitley Penn Talks, that's high up on there now, right?
Yeah,
It's a brand new podcast, just got released.
Yeah, now that it doesn't have accountants talking all the time, I might actually have to listen to it. So.
Okay, what's one movie you can watch over and over again? For me, I'm going to say Big Lebowski.
I kind of could watch either Taken or Braveheart over and over. So, growing up, I was a very big Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, but every time I try to watch those, I have to turn it off. So, yeah, I mean, I'll stick with maybe a Braveheart or a Gladiator.
That is honestly, I can't remember the last time I heard someone say they were a legitimate Steven Seagal fan.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, would you rather do karaoke or 3-minute stand-up?
Karaoke, because I could probably drown out how poor I am.
Okay, what's your go-to karaoke song? I'm gonna say Ice Ice Baby.
It's Dead or Alive a song?
Oh yeah.
That's
Wanted. Yeah. What's that?
Wanted. There you go. So,
yeah.
I don't.
Okay. Okay. Austin or Houston? You're T-Sip, but you live in Houston.
Yeah, I'm H-Town for sure.
Okay. Well, I know you like Uvalde, so Uvalde or Houston?
I'm energy finance guy, so Uvalde's not in the mix. So I'd say Houston.
Okay. Well,
and I want to stay married, so
that rounds it up. Brandon, I appreciate you taking the time. Hope you guys enjoyed it and had fun. And until next time, that was Whitley Penn's Energy Executive Profiles. Thank you. Bye.
Your energy